I'm Shobha Vishwanathan, Indiaspora Senior Director of Development and Civic Engagement, and I'm based in New York. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Indiaspora member Karl Mehta. Karl is a serial entrepreneur, author, investor, engineer, philanthropist, and civil servant with more than 30 years of experience in founding, building, and funding high-tech companies in the US and international markets. Karl was the founder and CEO of an artificial intelligence-powered knowledge cloud platform, Edcast Inc., which was backed by Stanford University and acquired by Cornerstone Inc. He was also a former venture partner at Menlo Ventures, a leading Silicon Valley firm with more than $6 billion under management. In 2011, Karl established the Mehta Trust, his family office for philanthropy and investments in early-stage tech companies and venture capital funds in Silicon Valley. While there is much more to share about Karl's illustrious track record, what I'd like to spotlight today is Karl Mehta's role as chairman of the Quad Investors Network. Arun referenced it earlier. The Quad Investors Network is an independent consortium supported by the governments of Australia, India, Japan, and the United States. And Karl was appointed to his role by the White House in 2022. Continuing on our theme of exploring multilateral connections and opportunities, Karl's talk is about innovations and investments to strengthen the Quad. Welcome, Karl.
All right, thanks, Shobha, and thanks everyone for joining this morning. Indiaspora has become a great unifying platform for the diaspora, so I want to really thank MR and the Indiaspora team for putting this conference together. So my name is Karl Mehta. I'm the chairman of Quad Investors Network. It's a great pleasure to be here in New Delhi and talk about a little bit about what Quad Innovation Forum is doing. So in the fourth industrial revolution, national security is more than just a military or a defense alliance. So as you know, that the Quad was formed almost a decade ago by late Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, and it was and it still continues to be a military and a defense alliance. But the larger need in the Indo-Pacific that we heard is in twofold. Number one is to be able to secure the leadership in strategic, advanced, critical, and emerging technologies against other players in the region. And second, we have to build a resilient supply chain in many of these technologies as we see concentration risks, and we've all experienced it during COVID. So with that background, the Quad Investors Network was announced at the Leaders Summit in Tokyo last year by President Biden and his counterparts. So we are on the precipice of a new wave of innovations and in frontier technology, especially in semiconductors, quantum information sciences, in clean energy, critical minerals, biotech, health security, cybersecurity, AI, and so forth and so on. The nation or the nations that will lead in these critical and emerging technologies will set the standard for global leadership and prosperity. So I also represent America's Frontier Fund, so I'll give a little bit background on AFF and then how it leads into the Quad Investors Network. So America's Frontier Fund was established as the United States' first nonprofit investment platform focused on building frontier tech hubs for a safer and more prosperous America. Our aim at AFF is to make the United States as the best place in the world for innovators to build and scale next wave of frontier technologies. Despite leading the world for better of the last half century, we recognize that the United States was risking in falling behind in key technologies race because our innovation base was no longer working to effectively commercialize and scale frontier technologies for two main reasons. Number one, we offshored our advanced manufacturing base. We all know about that, how much Arun talked about it in terms of manufacturing moving to lower labor cost markets. So we offshored our advanced manufacturing base, breaking the very important connection between research and development and manufacturing. So that was the first risk. And the second is the venture capital system became overweighted towards more software and neglected the hard technologies. So we all see the dependency on hardware in some geographies. So there's a reason for optimism, though. The US government has risen to the challenge and has authorized more than $20 billion, which is further matched by the state and the local governments. This money is being funded across national technology hubs to be built across the United States. Now, the US is not alone in this situation, so other countries in the Indo-Pacific has exactly the same challenge. And so the Quad Investor Network has a similar mission as the AFF, albeit more of an external focus rather than internal focus to the US, which is to advance this access to capital for critical and emerging technologies within and across the 4 Quad nations by facilitating co-investments, joint initiatives, research, collaboration, developments, and policy development. So QUIN, which is my organization, is the premier forum for leading individuals and organizations across India, Australia, Japan, and the United States to deliver outcomes by identifying strategic investments and joint initiatives in priority areas. The QUIN will also drive hyper-collaboration between Quad Plus nations. There's a term being used now, which is Quad Plus, that includes many of the friendly and the trusted nations in the Indo-Pacific outside of the 4 countries. And we've identified 10 technologies that we are focusing on both for leadership as well as for the supply chain. Number 1, semiconductors. As you all know, the more than 60% of concentration risk in particular geographies for semiconductors. Second, in quantum information sciences, where although the United States is the innovator in most of the quantum technologies, it's China that is further ahead in quantum communications. They already tested the links, quantum communication links between Beijing and Shanghai. We haven't done that here in the US, as well as in any of the other Quad nations. Third, and by the way, it's not in any particular order of priority. Third, mobility in 5G, 6G, Open RAN, AI, cybersecurity, biotech and health security, clean energy, critical minerals, fintech, workforce development. I think a lot was talked about that in this conference. Food security, very important. And then space tech and defense tech. We saw the landing on the moon. India is at an inflection point with space tech. Same thing is happening in the United States and other countries. So our objective in each of the sectors will be to identify key projects that are cross-border. So it has to cover all the 4 nations. In the nature of technology needs, capital needs, government policy, regulatory needs, and help to fast-track them by bringing our member institutions and governments and also venture capital and academia as partners. To that end, Quad Investors Network we're initially focused on 3 primary outputs or outcomes. Number 1, we are creating virtual technology center of excellence. We just launched a center of excellence for quantum information sciences, where we have the principal scientific advisor to the Prime Minister here in India, Dr. Ajay Kumar Sood, and his counterpart, the Chief Scientist of Australia, Dr. Kathy Foley, as the co-chair for quantum information sciences. And we have the leading scientists, academia, research, and private companies, private sector companies like Google's and the IBM's, who are involved in quantum technologies in the part of this building up this center of excellence. So that's a concrete example of things that we're working on. We are launching a similar COE in semiconductors and clean energy and critical minerals this year, and early next year we'll be launching in biotech and health security. So, and the other thing we are driving is co-investment opportunity. So strategic transactions that can include technology startups, mainly more scale-ups than startups, sorry. Supply chain deals that addresses specifically the supply chain constraints and bottlenecks that we see or the choke points in some of those 10 technologies that I mentioned. And we're already pursuing some deals, large-scale deals in clean energy and critical minerals, for example, in Australia, Japan, India, and the US. So our ultimate objective are to ensure that the Quad leadership in critical and emerging technologies and building a resilient supply chain that is based on the principles of free and open Indo-Pacific. It is extremely important that we get this right, especially as other countries seek to establish their own technological dominance and undermine the international rule of law, and which has ensured security and prosperity for much part of the century post the World War II. So we look forward to working closely with all the key players in India. It's great to be here in India. Your participation and contribution in any one of this critical and emerging tech will be super important, and it'll be critical if we are to rise to this occasion to a very historic moment in the history. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. If we have time, I'm happy to take questions. I don't know how much time we have because I think we are running late on time. So, all right.
address questions in the audience offline, maybe.
All right, perfect. Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.